Ah. Hello everyone. Maybe this fixes the situation. God, it's been a while since I've actually gone live. There we go. I apologize for that. Probably why no one could hear or see what the hell I was doing. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you can all hear me. Good morning. What is up, everyone? Welcome. Thank you for joining. We've got a lot to run through. I haven't been live in a very, very long time. And I appreciate you all for joining. There's a lot for us to kind of go through. I wanted to go through a weekly plan, answer some of the questions you lot might have. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Husky. Thank you for the shout as well, man. I appreciate that. I'm just running you through my thoughts. I think, you know, the way I trade, there isn't really much for me to... If I traded every day and it was very predictable, I would do these live streams where I would sit there and trade, you know, 20, 30 trades a day, whatever. That's not the case for me. So most of the time I'm actually, you know, just waiting around, not trading. You know, I haven't taken a trade in quite a while. And I just wanted to run you through how I'd kind of formulate my plan for this week in this current conditions. And, you know, the unfortunate answer right now is that realistically, there is no trade for me to really be taking. I'm much more used to, or, you know, my edge lies within trading more of a range bound market. Henceforth, I really haven't traded much of this. I did trade a lot of this price actions where I made a lot of my money. Let me turn this off. Made a lot of money during this sideways price action here, and, you know, it doesn't make sense to me to be trading every single piece of price action if my edge doesn't lie within that. And these streams will be coming back weekly, by the way, so hopefully we can do these weekly on a basis. But I want to just kind of run you through how I'd kind of view things. So if we just go on, mark out previous day levels, put this on here, we can update everything as to how I do this. Daily opens here. And this isn't anything for me to be trading with this such monumental price action. I mean, maybe over... You know, maybe once this gets some sort of drop, I mean, I'll cover my routine in a second. Maybe then, you know, you can start to form this kind of range here, but I wouldn't say it's anything definite in this sense. I'll be covering order flow as well, but yes. Uptrend, potential range low here. You don't want to lose this low here. Just go through everything. Dailies. Don't need this. This can go here. Don't need this either. Oh, you only see X. Yeah, I'm gonna need the sorry about this. You don't need to just give me on cue with this thing. I don't have my stream deck thing set up. I mean, I've got it here, but I can't be asked to really set it up as to what to use. But yeah, I wasn't really doing anything too much. They're just marking out a few of these levels and running through my plan. Naked point of controls. I'd veer away from marking out naked point of controls kind of lately. I'm more interested in just marking out volume profile levels. I mean, we can see here. We can see here, this is a massive point of control here, and then we've got one down there. So I would mark this out. So I must have something here. Yep. This is what I would mark this out and be like, that's a key support. And then I'd also mark out, if we just take this and drag it back a bit. You know, I think this is really important that you see the nuts and bolts of my analysis. Because most people just kind of view my execution and go, oh, that's what he does. No, nuts and bolts of my analysis is really like kind of boring in terms of just going through my routine. Everything's, you know, we're leaving everything behind. We haven't lost any sort of major support. Like even right now, this is all-time high breakouts, really. Not major conviction in my opinion yet. You'd want to see us push up a lot further. I'm not here to cover my higher time frame view. I'm just aware that the first sign of weakness would be losing 67k at least. Losing 67k here clearly, and then you could start to look for a range to form. Any sort of pullback beyond that, it just makes sense to continue higher. I'm a bit rusty, yes, indeed. You know, I sometimes debate doing this. I don't really have too much to... I mean, I share everything on X or Twitter and everything like that and within there. But mainly, it's my job is scaling now my professional account. And I just do that with a small group of people in like a small server. So, yeah, that's my current situation. I need to kind of do something. Hopefully, you all don't mind this. Give me a second. What was I going to do? You know what? I can't. It's not going to be done now, but I'll tell you anyway. Stream sponsored by Woo, even though I don't have their print on my screen accidentally. Apologies, Woo. But it's really these lot are amazing people over there. You can check the top link in the description for all the benefits in that case, such as, you know, sign in, deposit $500, take a trade, Exocharts Course, Exo membership, lifetime CMM on that account. There's literally everything there. I couldn't recommend them enough. Obviously, do your own research as well, but it's just my preferred exchange of choice, to be honest, for actual trading on there. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, Bitcoin again, just massively uptrending. I'll continue with my routine. So we've done this. Okay, these are, you can see how rusty this is. Put this on. No, there's nothing above price right now. You know, we are at all-time highs. So wow, that is, what the hell happened here? There's nothing above us, so we can delete that. But below us, what have we got? So this is still a low of interest. I would say this is also a big low of interest. When you look at this, right? 1, 2, 3. There's a resting liquidity there. That's fine. Just the only kind of flush scenario I see is this, and it has to reclaim this really fucking quick. And there's a C continuation, but I'm just cautious of a massive breakout. Although, you know, you have to expect it right now. None of my decision making here is actually going to be impactful. There's no trade for me to take today. But if we're looking here, volume based liquidity, these levels are great. So I want to talk you through these in a second. So if we just go back over, I'm going to move the screen to Exo so everyone can see it now. Right. This is like this is a massive part of collecting edge. I've done a whole video on this, but for those of you who probably don't know, we'll cover it now. 30-minute naked pointer controls. Okay. We can remove this and change the tick size to something low. There's a lot of updates coming to Exo, by the way, in the future, so be aware of that. But these are really good for identifying runs of liquidity, looking for pauses in liquidity, looking for, you know, levels to be hit, and finding POIs. So even here you can see you ran all of these before there's a gap in price action in terms of POCs. That's your level of interest or low. And it's really, really good at identifying POIs really for trades. So the concept of this would be, okay, I'm looking for 2 before there's a gap, or really at least 2. So there's these 2 here, and this bottom one comes in at 70,501. So what I'll do is I'll mark this out on, I'm going to come back there, 70,501. Really, as a POI, yeah, you wouldn't want to lose that. I'm really adamant you would not want to lose this level, otherwise you're looking for a very big flush. So that's big support. Just staying on here. Yeah, it could drop as low as here, and this would be a POI if it was a range bound there and you have a directional bias toward the upside. there's no reason to say this can't be the top. You know, you could see something like this in continuation. So this is the way I look at these levels, really, really powerful levels of interest. If I just show you, for those of you who have any questions on this, please let me know. But I want to show you this because this is something I don't see anyone talk about. This is fucking crazy. You know, it just creates a lot of my money is this stuff here, especially in conditions like sideways and you have a bias towards the upside and whatnot that you can see here. Price moves up, retraces towards this naked point of control, naked 30-minute point of control. Sees, you know, obviously depends on the reaction there. You know, you've got to have a system in place to look for reactions there. And then you take a long and target a poor high or whatever. That's literally my whole trading system, alongside liquidity as well. Yeah, even down here. I remember this one actually. I took a long there that day. Up here, so it's really, really powerful. Okay, really, really powerful stuff. This, in my opinion. So I'd highly recommend that. And you know, the templates are there for free, so you can just go and download them. There's a lot of questions. Okay, cool. Tried signing up for Woo to take advantage of the offer, but anyways, just drop me a DM. All sorts hang out. Hey bro, remember to make sure we're looking at the same screen as yours. Yeah, I will. I'll read the questions aloud before I answer them. Don't worry. Do you use custom gaps? There's actually a thread coming out on this. I do. And that's just not a very simple answer to it. But there's a massive edge. And this is, again, a lot of my ideas come through massive brainstorming sessions and how I can kind of create an edge for myself. Custom gap fills. I mean, this is something I don't mind giving away now because it's not something I 100% am using all the time. But imagine, you know, everyone understands that there's gap fills, you know, like in ES, etc. markets, you'll have like gaps and, you know, people look at the charts of them filling. Why can't you create custom gaps? You know, what if this wasn't here on Bitcoin and you can look for this gap to be filled, you know, through different sessions maybe. And that's something that, you know, there's going to be a whole thread on in great detail. So yeah, there'll be that. You are just trading BTC, right? Do you also have some longer swing trades on alts or also BTC? Do you have any spot or really just short-term trading BTC? I'm primarily short-term trade BTC. Happen. Oh shit. Oh no. Alright, it says excellent connection. It says, okay, now it's back. I'm hoping. Please let me know we're all good. I really hope we're good. Nothing's happened. But yeah, there's a few things I bought. I hate shilling or people shilling stuff to me or whatever. I hate all that stuff. I'm here to make money. Honest truth is I couldn't give any sort of fucks about crypto, if I'm honest with you all. I'm really just here to follow my process. It just so happened that crypto is the place where I do trade. And Bitcoin, I do hold a lot of spot Bitcoin. I hold a lot of spot ETH. I bought a lot of Nvidia back in a while ago, and that made me a lot of money. Apple, I really like Apple, and Tesla. Okay, there is also some of these that I do hold, mainly Vertex, if I'm honest with you. That's it. But apart from that, I mainly trade Bitcoin. That's where the majority of my time is in crafting an edge there. Okay. Would you not trade the 30-minute towards the high London high, as it is a high hit rate level? Let's see. So if we just bring this back to Exo. So what he's saying is this, and it's a great point. Or it could be a she, but 99.5% of my viewers are actually male. It's a very interesting fact. What they're saying is that London's put in the high today. A drop towards these levels would influence a long trade up towards London high. Yes, potentially, right? Just the conditions for me aren't there to be trading this as a bias. London high can still be putting on the high, especially within trending conditions as such. There is no 100% obligatory that it has to kind of revisit this high, and I definitely wouldn't trust it as much to kind of long down here, even if the trend is up. That's the only, if you're going to trade today, that's the only trade I'll look for, is a long down here to up there. I'm not even trading this, but I'm just letting you know that's what I would look for London high. And there's no poor anything. The other thing I'd be really aware of is like this. I'm not a massive fan of this initial move up in London. I would like to see it kind of feel this almost like a massive buying tail. No, it's not something I'm a massive fan on. So, you'd like to kind of see it built in, so that you would see potentially a bit of a fill here. And obviously that would lead to much larger drop in price. 30-minute POC means the POC of the 30-minute candle. Yes, it does. So when I'm referring to POCs, I'm referring to, this is a TP, a session. This is my I love this template for creating POIs, but these are all 30-minute candles inside the session TPO, and then the rays are coming out from each individual candle if they are left behind as a POC. Yeah. What's my win? I'll cover that in a second. Good to have you back live streaming. Missed them. Thank you. I love BTC. Make more on NQ futures trading. Great point there. If you have an edge there, and that's more of where your edge lies, then 100% that's what you should be doing, in my opinion. What's your win rate? Around 48% to 52% lies within that area. So it can be slightly higher a month, but slightly, I wouldn't say it really drops below 45. That's where it kind of dims out. No, Jay. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Do you establish your high hit rate level? Yeah, I do. I always get asked questions on this. The truth is, I'm really hesitant to give any of it away, because I don't, there are certain things which I'll give away once, in my opinion, the edge is gone, and you can create and use it to your advantage. But the majority of the time, a lot of this stuff and almost everything that high rate levels, I don't hear people talk about that, especially the levels I'm coming up with and going through. So I just don't want to put any sort of jeopardy on my edge at all. Like I see no reason to do that, especially with certain size that you're trading. Like you don't want to. Just certain things you don't want to give away. But high rate levels are great, and the way I would use it is in it's not just this is a level, prices that I'm going to short. The idea would be, okay, this is the level of interest. Whoops. Very nice, cool, we're good. This is the level of interest, for high rate level. Price rises to a POI, and then I could short and target down towards there. So it's not just as simple as that's my POI, I'm going to short or long towards it directly. A lot of other things have to come into play. Okay, what's the chances of a future DOM like you have on ExoWeb? Not high, I'm going to be honest with you. Not amazingly high right now, but there is, for anyone interested in Exo Desktop, there's some big things coming. We've got big updates coming very soon. I use it like every day, and I make my role at Exo is to make it into a platform where I can make the most amount of money from it possible. That's why we've got like certain, I don't mind sharing certain things that we've got. Whoops. So if I turn this off, it's broken a little bit. So yeah, stuff like this. We created like this Delta Max min indicator thing that I've got created. That's not released yet, but stuff like this will be really out soon. So yeah, it's great. I made this video the other day, but I highly recommend you use it as to why I actually don't use 15-minute charts or any sort of time-based chart for execution that much anymore. I don't mention it out loud because there's obviously like the nuts and bolts of my strategy revolve around it, but I don't necessarily use 15-minute or 5-minute too much for execution. My execution actually lies within range charts, and that's for, I highly recommend. I'll link the video somewhere. I'll put it in the chat actually if I can, because I know where it is. I'll link it. Copy link. Yeah, it's here. You can just go watch that after this, obviously. It's literally really good, hopefully. About going over why I prefer trading range charts, and why, looking at the order book, getting orders being filled, and like just the constant of being able to go, we don't know where necessarily all this volume's coming in. Not each candle's the same constant size, etc. There's a lot to it. But my plan for Bitcoin, overall, is massively, you have to be bullish. Like I'm not going to be counter trading this trend at all, one bit. Bull market, cool. I don't really care. Bull bear market, it has no impact on me at all. I really don't care. I mean, my spot makes money, but it doesn't really have too much of an impact on me. I would expect higher prices. I just would be cautious. Okay, I'm not here to share my expertise on higher time frame trading. That's not where my expertise is. Go find someone else. There's some people I recommend for that. that prefer doing other, spot buying, etc. People I recommend: Crypto Cred, Abe Trade, Trading Right, Skew, Stoic. Yeah, there's someone. Those guys I recommend for stuff like this. My Edge purely lie. I'm not going to go over stuff that my Edge doesn't predominantly lie in, but my Edge predominantly lies in trading Bitcoin on a day-by-day basis and making money there on a month-by-month basis based on R and percentage money, being made. So, thoughts on ICT? I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't really care. Am I part of Exo? Yeah. Big part of it. So yeah, let's go stay on this. If there's any questions, go over them. What I wanted to just mention to everyone, I'm going to cover Exo in a second a bit more, but like my edge, when I say my edge predominantly lies in this, I'm only really trading, when you have like ranges like this, I'm making a lot of money, even a little bit around here. But the majority of my edge lies in range, and I think that's something a lot of people never ever really come across, is like, where does your edge really lie? Identify the conditions before the day begins. For me, I've identified today, clearly it's a trending market right now. Clearly we're in a massive trend. Within this you're in a range, within this you're in a trend. Here's a range, trend, range, trend. I didn't trade any of this really, and then it's still trending. So there's no need for me to get involved. And I think there's always this constant need from Twitter or X that you must be involved. You must be always trading. And a lot of my edge really lies in, I know when the fuck I should be sitting on my hands. And I know when my edge is present. And a lot of people don't. So yes. Any tips for backtesting with Exo? Yes, the replay function. So if we just go to Exo, I'd recommend, this would be really bad if it doesn't work now, but if you could go right click the chart, replay from here, and it will start replaying, and you can change the replay speed, fast forward, okay, to my level of interest. And this is a really good way of practicing your drills. Okay, where's what you want to see at level of interest, etc. That's one tip there. This is not a bad level. I mean, you got a naked point of control here, $72,000. This is my setup on Exo. It's really, really nice. Just 2 panels, main panel, and then usually I have in silicos or the DOM. Your 30-minute POCs are time or volume? Volume-based POCs. Which data feed do you mostly rely on? For Orderflow, Bybit. For Orderflow, Bybit, that might change to Woo. But right this second is Bybit, and I trade on Woo. Sometimes I trade on Bybit, but mainly Woo. Have you been back? Yes, I've been back testing within these markets all the time. That's what I'm predominantly doing. When I'm not trading, that's what I'm doing all the time. Back testing, trying to find an edge, going through all my data. What's the high hit rate level? Why does this high hit rate level not hit here? Why is there a massive amount of volume here? What happened here? And going through that type of data. I don't just sit there and not trade or do it. Or I don't trade, but I'm crafting an edge or working on my edge. On a day like today, I mean, I would go through my routine, but there is no, I've gone through some of it already in terms of the the previous day levels, higher time frame POCs, volume, single prints, volume-based liquidity and volume-based liquidity and liquidity levels are my favorite, if I'm honest. I delete this, and then this was the one that is 72k. We'll put that in here. Hide that. So now we've got, look, we've got nothing really here. There's nothing that's going to drop. So this is interesting here. The only thing I would really say, if we hide this, is anything. So you got this volume-based liquidity. This is regular liquidity here, I would say. And then you've also got this one here, which I kind of like. They would go into here. You'd then mark out volume-based liquidity that we just did before. Put it back on 0, and now we've got 2. I'm not too much of a fan of this one. It's okay, but overall, the better level is down here if you are going to get along. Overall, it's printing up, and you don't have. Yeah, I just really wanted to put the point across that you don't have to always be involved in this type of stuff. Just there is. And I'm saying this from a point of I used to be always wanting to be involved in this type of stuff, in type of moves. Every move you have to be involved. I'm talking from experience where I actually got done over badly by wanting to be a part of every move. There is times to sit out of the market, and for me, at least, that's when now. And I'm not saying that it is for you, but as long as you know what your edge is and you know where your edge lies, if you're good in both trending and ranging markets, then of course, now's the time to be involved. If you're very good at just trending markets, then now's the time to be involved. If you're just good at ranging markets, then maybe now's not the time to be involved. But know when you should be involved and know when you shouldn't. And if you don't, that's where you're going to get done over, because you're going to be wanting to be involved in every single move in the market. For anyone that's maybe new here or anything, I don't do, unfortunately, I don't do any sort of like chart recommendations or anything like that. So I just want to put that out there. I don't do anything like that. I'm merely just focused on crafting an edge, creating biases, sharing building processes, rather than telling you where I think is best to long or short. I think it's more important to teach you how to build your own process. Okay. Because I could tell you where I think it's good to long or short, but if you can't replicate that or create a system for yourself that you can rigidly follow, then you're fucked. So I trade my own account, Thomas. Yes, Husky. Yeah, there's always this. I don't want to get into it, but like the majority of the people it's very fucking rare. I see anyone that I know is going, they're profitable. It's very, 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 very rare. There's only a few people that I categorically know are. So, but I'm not here to call anyone out or anything. So just everyone do your own due diligence and really think about, if you want to follow someone for levels they're trying to trade, or just build a process and whatnot. I'm not asking you to pay me anything or do anything for anyone else. Just think about how you want to see growth and what you'd expect growth to look like. If we just go over to here, let's just bring this up. Hopefully, am I on the right one? No, I'm not. The range chart. So what I was mentioning here was that everything's constant. You can see within that same video I was discussing how look at the each candle's in this case $200, and for price to move $200, it's got to print, it prints every $200 of movement, and you can see the volume is taken to move that $200 movement. And I think that's really important. You can't really see that within a 15-minute chart. You can just see the volume within each candle and identify that. But within this, you can kind of get a better understanding of how the order book's actually reacting. Like here, it's taken a lot of volume and a lot of delta to move price the same amount that it did here, with not so much volume and not so much delta. So that's kind of the concept in a little bit of detail. I trade my own account, not prop. Just merely focusing on sizing up the account. I find that extremely, I won't talk about it too much, but I find it extremely weird. Not weird, but it's not surprising actually, that the aim of trading is to size up and trade size. There's no point being profitable if you're going to trade $100 account. The aim is to size up your account. right? No, am I wrong? The aim is to size up, trade bigger size. Otherwise, there's no point in doing this. Yet no one ever talks about sizing up, scaling. It's always, how can I turn $100 into $10,000 or whatever. The reality is, it's a slow growth to actual scaling, and that's like really, really important. Do you apply your system to shit coins or as well, or just large caps? I apply it to just large, Bitcoin, occasionally Ethereum, but just mainly Bitcoin. Not to say it doesn't work on other coins. People can go and do that, but most people can't bother to craft an edge and do that and spend time doing that. They'll just see Ethereum, try and test it without any sort of actual testing or whatever, or journaling, and they get done over. Do you have a spot buy portfolio for crypto as well? What's your approach to reinvesting profits from trading? That's a good point. I'll probably do a video on that. But I hold actually four things. No, the four things. So I'll just tell you this, don't mind. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Vertex, and Woo. There you go. You got four things. They're the four things I hold. Yeah, I'll continue to share it later on, my routine. So someone's asked if I could share my routine, and I will. I've done a thread on it as well. But yeah, I really like the constant of being able to see the volume is taken to move price X amount of dollars, and there's a constant of the candles. I really, really love this. Think about that. Price has moved $200 here as it did here as well. They're all $200 movements, yet there's this much volume to move price $200 here, and this much volume to move price this $200 here. Right now it's like all-time high, all discovery mode. So I find very little edge in looking at this stuff, and this is the thing. I don't, even though I have Orderflow up here right now, I don't necessarily have to find an edge in it. I have to, when prices are in the right conditions and I'm looking at a range bound market, I'm looking at my level of interest, is really where I predominantly pay attention to Orderflow. I don't analyze every single massive move up and go, this is over a leveraged long positions. And I used to in the past. I'm telling you from my experience. I don't care, what anyone says. I'm just telling you from my experience, and I might be wrong. I'm just telling you what worked for me and what hasn't. When I did that, I just overanalyzed the situation, and I'm creating narratives over nothing. I had no edge in creating a narrative. That statistically my journal said that. There's a lot of longs opening up here, so maybe they closed out. I'm better on focusing what's going on at my level of interest, and then how can I create an edge from that. I could tell I could read you like what the majority of people are wanting you to read. I can read you through the last 20 days of open interest has been going up, Delta's been going down, spot CVD. I could tell you that, but I'm just talking through from my own experience that hasn't worked for me. And hence why I've really shifted, not even shifted, I've been doing this for ages now, but my approach is predominantly looking at the order flow only at my levels of interest, and then building upon that from there, having a routine, doing my journal, etc. Vertex protocol, yes, Lucifer. How much ticks are you using in TPO at the moment? Good question. It varies, but this one's, I'm using like 1,000 now on the USDT Bybit on the linear, but it can go up, depends. Do I use Trading Light? No. Not a bad software at all. I don't have anything. It's any software. I think all softwares are great. If you have any recommendations for softwares I should look at, the ones I do recommend are like Velodata. I like them. CoinMarketMan, that's a journaling tool. Yeah, Vertex is great. How does one scale if you're starting on small capital? If you have 1K and 3% each trade, it will take a long time to grow. I don't know. I won't share my whole view on funded accounts. I'm not the biggest advocate for them. If you are going to use them sparingly. Do one a month at best. At most, do one a month, and not overdo them. But I just live in a world where like I would know how to get someone to kind of fund me. I would speak with someone and prove, if you can categorically prove you're profitable. If you do $1,000 account, you do 3%. You're risking 1% to 3% a trade. Your system. you know everything about it, and you've got a track record, and you show for over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, this is my win rate, this is my average odds, this is my average winner, this is my average loser, these are the setups I trade, this is where I size up on a setup, this is where I size down on a setup, this is where I trade, this is where I don't trade. You know all that stuff for over a year and a half. Come talk to me, show me all your data, I will fund you myself. Nobody can be asked to do that. I'm telling you, nobody can be asked to do that, and that's why the majority fucking fail. I will fund you myself if someone does that. If this is, I have $1,000 in my account, I've taken 100, 150 trade, whatever it may be, over the course of 1-2 years. Here's my average R, here's my average winnings, here's my average losings. I size up because of X, I size down because of Y. Nobody can do that. Nobody will do that. It's what I did, but nobody will do that. Some might, but you know, they're clear. They're not doing other stuff. Do I use Notion? Do you have a tutorial on calculating ticks based on volatility? I don't have that, and I will do a video on that for you all. Of ticks based on volatility when I get time. Again, I don't. Yeah, it is what it is. Do you use Notion for journaling? I use it as part of my journal. Mainly I'm using CoinMarketMan for my automated journaling, but I still use Notion for my routine, my personal preparation, etc. all the time. Which funded account do you recommend? I don't think you're talking to me. If you're talking to me, I would recommend. I mean, I don't recommend any. I don't use any. But Breakout Prop seems quite good. I mean, mainly because I know the people behind it. I know of them fairly well. They're quite nice guys. So yeah, Breakout. Yeah. What do you work on outside of trading? That's it. I work on building, helping Exocharts build. But that's it, you know, I focus on my edge. Like a lot of the stuff no one will see is like me sitting in a spreadsheet fucking going nuts for hours and hours and hours on end, and doing that for a lot of time. You know, that's where my edges really lie. That's where the majority of my time is spent. And also backtesting within Exo. You know, there's so much to do within here. This platform as a whole, it's made me so much money. Just through understanding every single like nooks and crannies of it, if that's what you want to call it. Just it's made me so much money. But that's not saying that if you buy this or whatever, you know, you could sign up with Woo and get a free month of it. That's going to give you a massive buy. You know, it's going to make you a lot of money. You have to use it correctly. You know, spend a lot of time in it. I just love it. I mean, look at this. You can really easily, I mean, I find it super kind of easy, especially at levels of interest, to identify where reversals will occur. Tom Jones, will I ever trade any other market? Like, I mean, I don't, unless the honest truth is I don't think so. I don't think I will. Maybe if my edge becomes nullified and I can't think of a way to ever fix it, then I will find another market. But until that ever happens, then no, I don't think so. How much money did you start with trading? $4,000. Pounds. It might have been dollars or pounds. I remember it was like 4,000. So yeah, definitely not loaded from the get-go. You know, yeah, I always get a lot of questions about like WooX and stuff like that, and like Exo. You can literally get Exo for free. I know it's not the cheapest of things right now. The stuff we provide on here, in my opinion, is like industry. You know, it's amazing stuff. Like we're trying to set a new industry standard in what we provide in terms of simplicity and all that stuff. And obviously, we're still working on a few things. Yeah, that's no doubt. But you can mark my words on it. You know, like whilst I'm doing everything we can for Exo, like I'll make it the best it can possibly be. I know what everyone wants. Like I know what all of you want for this software. There's no doubt about it, and it's just about getting that stuff eventually implemented. And if you want to test it out for free, obviously sign up through Woo. Go to the link in the description, the first link, and you'll get everything there. So we're working on the aggregated data feed now. I actually have access to that, but no, it wouldn't necessarily be better. Is the 30-minute PSC not at the same level with the daily SP, and taking London high would still be of the bullish one-sided trend? No. Yes, Dave Brown, CMM. I use CMM to do that stuff. They've got it in there as well. Okay, there's a lot of questions coming in. What do you think about overcomplicating trading? What is your approach to simplifying your trading and stop over analyzing? Yeah, I've got a thread coming out on this actually, but one thing I would always recommend is, like, I think the biggest thing I did was with the order flow. I would always try and overanalyze things. You know, like I'd go, well, I would be, what's going on this trend here, what's going on this trend, and then, like, you know, I'm not saying all software is useless, but, you know, there's certain things even in Exo or other softwares which go, you know, what's this overall trend doing? I found that, like, just too overanalyze, you know, I was overanalyzing so much. It would be better for me just to go, okay, what's my levels through, you know, POCs, volume, etc., liquidity, that I can identify pre-planned levels. And then when it gets to it, I just go, okay, well, this is what's going on at my level. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm going to enter, and going from there. So that's how I'd really just stop looking at things too much. But you have to have a system for when you do want to look at the things. You know, that's important. What chair do I have? I used to have a Herman Miller, and now I have some IKEA chair. I don't know why. I just preferred it over the Herman Miller. It's like a smaller chair. But yeah, I don't have any blue light blocking lens, but I probably should. And health, I've obviously got like a lot of posture things. I go see a chiropractor quite often as well on the occasion, and a lot of other things like that. What else is there? You obviously go for regular walks. I'm not actually sitting at the computer for as long as some people probably think, at least nowadays. We'll head over to TradingView as well a bit. I'll give you some views on here. Right. It would be nice to see it's massive. This is just, it's a very quick move up, isn't it? Very, very, very quick move up to all-time highs. Amazing to see it break. But that's not where I'm making some money from this, obviously, but it's not where the majority of my money really lies. Okay, I will do that. Recently, I haven't actually traded a while. I guess that's the thing. I'd have to go through my journal because I haven't. Let me check. I remember I took this loser. I really haven't traded since this losing trend. I remember the break before, the day upon the break of the range that like just sent this whole move to all-time highs. Down here, I took this short, and I realistically, you know, look at it now, I was happy I took it. I have now a high hit rate on the same day after like I spent the weekend doing it. There's like a high hit rate level now coming in that was coming in like all the way up here. So I wouldn't have, if this was like an, you know, that's something I've learned is to, you know, have a high rate level up here. It doesn't make sense to trade that. So the thing is, and the problem is, I've got a very much more mechanical system in terms of executing my trades. So the actual order flow reasoning behind it is definitely not the same as look for a trap value area. I would still look for spikes in volume, liquidations, etc. But the actual thing is look for delta, looking at volume, comparing delta, comparing volume, etc. Have you ever tried using your principles with? No, I haven't. I probably should, I guess. And that's something I can write down. I think that's something I always write down ideas I come, you know, that comes up or whatever during the day. It's just looking bullish, right? It's looking 72, 73, 74k. Yeah, things are moving quickly. Highlights, I signed up for Woo with using your previous referral link. Will this still qualify for the latest sign up code? Yes, apart from the CMM. But I can just contact me and I can sort something out with you. I don't really care about any of this stuff. So yeah, if you sign up, you trade, whatever, and you've done it all, or you have any issues, just drop me a message. This stuff is basically free at the end of the day. I said I'm completely transparent with this. Any sort of money that comes from that ref link, I'm using to scale up my account even faster. It will not hurt me one bit. So that's the truth about it. Yeah. But I won't be taking direct payment. You know, people have been asking me for direct payments to get this stuff. I don't feel comfortable doing that. If you know, I'd rather just give it away to some of you for free if you have like really big issues trying to do this. I don't really care. Any tips for avoiding FOMO when seeing people on Twitter make tons of money from? How legit are all these people? Hard to block out the noise sometimes and focus. What a great question. How legit are all these people? Off the top of my head, I could probably name 5 people I trust in this space. That's it. And I won't even name anyone because I don't want to leave names out and whatever. There's like 5 people maximum, maybe 10, but there's you know, and you probably don't know most of them. I would just turn off Twitter completely. The truth. Where do Exo get their data from? The exchanges. That's what I'll say. In this bull trending market, how would you spot a true sign of weakness and hence think about hedging? Yes, of course, 60k is a long way away, but no, I would use Elliott waves. I'm not going to dive into this. This is not something you need to hear from me. I mean, if you do, I will cover it one day. I just do Elliott waves a different way to most people. I think it's not really interesting. It's just I just use it for when I'm hedging. And right now there's no signs of weakness. If we go into you know, wow. 1, 2, yeah, this I'm expecting, you know, because if we're looking at this in terms of like corrective pieces, I would expect there to be a longer sideways movement like within the next few weeks. And that's when I'm going to hopefully make a shit ton more money, because that's where my edge will really come into play when we do go sideways for a bit more. And yeah, that's what I'm really excited for. But how would I expect the sign of weakness? You do have to wait for like a larger drop, you know, like waiting for $70,000 is not a sign of weakness. Like even the only real scenario right now where I'm like, this is a big sign of weakness is losing. It's such a drop. You'd have to really, I'd really wait $60,000 at the minimum to be lost, to be like, this is a massive sign of weakness. But if it is lost, I'm not going to tell people what I think. I'm not trying to get any hate or anything. I would just be cautious if $60,000 is lost. Is the bull trend? Yeah, okay, I've gone. I'll just wait for a massive sign of weakness to hedge. It makes sense. That's what I would do. I really appreciate all of you lot joining, by the way. If you haven't, I mean, I'll ask this once and I'll never do this again. So this is the only time I'm ever going to do this. Let me see how much it's on now. Hold on. This is the first and only time I'm ever going to do this. I'm not going to ask again. Okay, it's already quite high. I mean, yeah, just hit the like button, get it to 60 likes. It means fuck all. I just thought I want to see what type of power you lot have. So, yeah, that would be cool. Now, it doesn't really mean anything at all. But yeah, I really wanted to go through. I mean, like, what would be cool is if next week I might get someone on that I'm currently tutoring or something, because I also mention this. I get a lot of people that ask, you know, can you tutor me? And there's certain people that I just be like, nope, I'm okay. I don't want to do this. You know, people offer, I'll tell you now, I get offered thousands of dollars to teach people. And I just don't think some of the people are worth the time because of the knowledge on what they haven't gone through and what they have gone through. It's a really selective process. But what would be cool is to have one of those people on here talking you through how I teach them, etc. So you can gain a massive insight on that. There's so much I don't share, to be honest with you, that because it just requires a much longer sit down talk lecture on, to be honest. It's about following rules no matter what, 100%. I couldn't, it's the exact follow my rules and process. It's just crazy the amount of people that are out there that I just know are fake and like don't follow any sort of rules, don't follow any sort of process, yet they expect to make money. Anyone that you see online trading that has no rules, no process, no handbook, no nothing, you can't really expect them to make money, can you? At least in my eyes. I'm just categorically telling you that. So it's definitely something to just consider, that you must have all of this stuff in place, otherwise you're wasting your time. Every single minute that goes by that you don't have rules, you don't have a notebook, you don't have a journal, it's just you wasting time. And I'm telling you from experience, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm telling you because I used to think I can do this the easy way, whatever, and make money. And no, I absolutely got, let's put it politely, I got done by the market. I'm sure the same way most people won't ever experience you to, talk to you about. It's just a massive learning process. And if you're not willing to change that to journal, etc., then there's no point in doing this. I have done before. Maybe that's for a story. Maybe that's for a story when I've managed larger funds before. I have. That's interesting to talk about because the psychology was the most weird thing about that, to be honest with you all. Not the actual process. But like I said, if you have any questions about order flow, etc., I'm all open for it. I think there's so much that I know about Exo and order flow in general. I mean, even things that I don't ever talk about, I know a lot about. I just don't use it and have found no edge in it. Doesn't mean that you can't find an edge in it. It's just that I've found no edge in it, even if I understood it really well. Spot versus futures, derivatives, CVD. I don't look at that, but doesn't mean I don't understand it very, very well. Heat maps. There are certain things that I do like. Not with heat maps indirectly, but Velo data, liquidation heat map they've got, and where else is it? They've got funding heat map and aggregated funding. I like Velo data stuff. I do. So that's something I'd recommend. I appreciate you finding my YouTube. Yeah, it's great because there's no one else out there that has really taught me anything that I've had to do. It's quite a sad game, to be honest, because the only way I was going to learn any of this stuff that I know now is through my own findings. There was no one that's going to spoon feed me any of this stuff. That's why I don't want to necessarily spoon feed. This is the high hit rate level, and I very easily could go, this is why this has occurred. Once you've actually done all the hard work, the actual presentation of the data is so easy. I could just be like, this is a high rate level. There's an 88% chance it goes there today based on 400 points of data, and that's why I'm looking for that. It's very easy to do that, but you will learn absolutely nothing from me doing that. All I would say to you, and what I've told all my students, is think outside the box. The higher rate levels that I come up with, I'm almost guaranteed that nobody else has. I don't want to sound naive in saying that. I just have heard nobody ever think about this the way I've thought about things. And I think that's probably why I've made a lot of money in combination with the ability to stick to my rules, etc. Because even with all these higher rate levels and creating a bias and creating a system, it all would be fucking useless if I didn't follow my rules or a system, and have all of that stuff in place. Just a preference. I thought there were Keegan has asked, would you switch? Why did I switch to USDT? Just a preference because I thought they were taking away the inverse pairs. So I was like, well, I'm best get used to just deal with the flow on the USDT pairs and switching all that over as well. More volume doesn't necessarily mean better volume. I really want to get that point across as well. You don't need to view all markets to gain an edge. It just provided me with more noise. So I'm not saying it's not going to provide anyone else with an edge. I'm just telling you what works for me. I think that's also important. I've always mentioned this before. just because something doesn't work for someone doesn't mean it won't work for you. You know, someone told me before that you will never be profitable trading with, you know, looking at one pair. What a fucking load of bollocks. What a lie. Anyway, they weren't speaking to me, but they were saying, you know, you have to look at all these different pairs. Lies. You know, I literally look at Bybit, BTC, USDT, trade on Woo, and do my thing there, and I've created a system, etc., and it works. So I was curious. So can you please explain how to use TPO on trading, please? That's a great one. There's a whole video I've done on it. It's probably my most viewed one on the channel, so I'd recommend you go watch it. Do I like Coinank? I know what that is. I know what that is, but no, I don't. Yeah, I don't like it. What do you mean more volume isn't just better? What I mean by okay, Husky. So not more volume. So what I mean by that is I see a lot of people look at, well, maybe my way of saying it wasn't the best, but you know, people be like, you know, you're looking at a pair which has such low volume, you know, you've got no real understanding of what the market is doing. And maybe that's right, but you can still build a very rigid system around certain individual pairs. So what I'm saying is the idea that looking at, you know, just for example, Binance has the most volume, right? Just because I'm not looking at Binance doesn't mean that I'm not having an edge on the market. I think that's really important to point out. Or looking at aggregated data doesn't mean I have a massive edge on the market. You know, I was told that I have to look at Bybit, Bitcoin, you know, Bybit, Binance, all of these different pairs to be able to get a real understanding of what the market is doing. And even if I'm not, you know, if what I'm doing now is not understanding what the market's doing, then maybe that's okay. Maybe I've just built a system around what I think works and it works out really well. But I don't need to really understand what the market is doing every single moment of the time to be able to have an edge. My edge lies in finding levels of interest, finding a system that works on maybe a certain set of exchanges or an exchange of my choice, in this case Bybit, BTC, USDT, and going from there. So yeah. I've used KJevin about AI software to help with trading. I mean, I've used ChatGPT to like kind of help me with data reorganizing, but mainly all manual, if I'm honest with you. From some of it's through TradingView data, some of it isn't. Yeah. I just don't find an edge in it. I mean, it's good for absorption, but I can look at things in other ways. More experience with DEXs. Vertex is good. One-click trading as well is quite nice, but yeah. Everything manually. Yeah, it can do, and this is what I'm saying. I mean, Husky says it's interesting because I prefer aggregated raw data over Exo because it gives me a better overview. I mean, two things there. So first of all, we are going to be adding aggregated data to Exo for those that do want that. Number two, I would say it could completely give you an edge. I would say, have you tried looking at maybe one or two pairs? I'm not saying that what you've got right now isn't creating an edge at all, because, you know, you could have a much better overview of the market than me or whatever. But I was just pointing out the fact that maybe it's not impossible. Actually, I know it's not impossible to create an edge by looking at one or two pairs. It's really down to personal preference. But I think what's most important is that you've got statistically backed evidence that what you're doing works, and that's, you know, that can only be done through statistically backed evidence. Otherwise, it's not really worth it. So, yeah, I think that's the point I was trying to make there, was just because something doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you lot. I'm just saying that I think a lot of people push the agenda that you must look at X amount of pairs when in reality, or exchanges when in reality, from me, I've only been looking at one. So yeah. What's Bitcoin doing? It's still just grinding, isn't it? It's still just up there. So we left all this behind. It just looks tasty to clean it all up. For sure. But Husky, man, drop me a DM. We'll get in touch. It'd be great to talk with you or something one time as well. A few times. Nice to meet some new people as well that I really enjoy on the platform. But yeah, if anyone don't follow Husky, go do that. So yeah, I'll kind of wrap it up there. I mean, it's not your really traditional streams you're probably going to be listening to in reference to me running through all these different coins, etc. I I apologize if that's what you're looking for. Actually, I don't apologize. Go and find someone to do that with. But for me, it's much more about teaching you about how to build systems, build processes, make money month on month. Is really the most important thing I'm really always looking into. That's that. I'm going to do this on a weekly basis. I'm kind of traveling in a few weeks, but you know. What exchange do I use for trading? Yeah, Woo. Recommend them. Again, the first link in the description, you get free Exocharts membership. Yeah, this is like a deal I'm so proud to offer, because I think it's probably something people will find value from. Deposit $500, take a trade. Obviously, continue trading, you get a massive bonus. DM me, I can sort you out with some stuff if you do turn it into your primary exchange of choice. But you get Exo for a month, lifetime coin market man, so there's no excuse to not journal. And a fully fledged Exocharts course to learn about everything in this case, and you don't really have to spend anything. So yeah, hopefully Woo is KYC available in the UK. Yep, you can KYC. Recommend them, and if you don't, just drop me a DM if anyone has any issues. But I've just got a notification that Carl the Moon is going live. I don't know why that's come on my old PC, but I recommend you all go watch him out because he's an absolute legend. But yeah, I really appreciate all of you guys for joining. Again, we're going to do this on a weekly basis. If you want any more contact with me, just DM me on Twitter or X. Yeah, KJ, just ping me again. There's so many coming through. It's we'll go through all of that. It will be instant, except once I do it's instant. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone joining and listening. You lot are legends. Build systems, build processes, make money. Don't fall into the trap of everything else. That you're probably taught. But yeah, I'm going to stop rambling. Try out Exocharts and check out Woo. Thank you for the support. Woo, legend.